Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. Coming up this hour on the most dangerous show on the airwaves, Katie Wilson has managed to unite everybody in Seattle against her because of her incompetence. GOP is kicking extremists out while the Democrats seem to be recruiting them. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Ever since I was a kid, I've never liked bullies. I wasn't the most popular kid in middle school, but you know what the nice thing was? I was taller than everybody else for a while there. So nobody really messed with me that much because I've been this height since 6th grade. Kind of stopped growing around 8th grade. That ruined my very short-lived basketball career when I went from being the center to the point guard in one summer when everybody else had a growth spurt. But I remember my brother got picked on a lot when I was a kid. And he was really treated horribly by some kids in his class. And I remember talking to my father, and my father goes, Brooklyn justice. And I go, what's Brooklyn justice? He goes, the older brother takes care of the younger brother. You take care of your brother. So I took care of my brother. I've been in 2 real fights in my life, and both times were defending my brother. Got yanked into the principal's office for both of them. And when they dragged me inside the principal's office, they said, why'd you do it? I said, because my father told me to. Best excuse ever. Because what are they going to do? Punish my dad? That was it. But I've never liked bullies. I really don't like people who use their power to bully other people and people who say, I disagree with you. So what we're going to use is the tools of government to come after you. And that is exactly what Washington State is doing against anybody they disagree with. Just a couple days ago, we told you how somebody has filed labor and industries complaints against our friend Andrea Suarez. This story has gone viral nationally and internationally. Do you know why? So, Labor and Industries is going off after the volunteer organization that cleans up needles, but not the organizations that are giving out the needles, not the ones that are giving people the stuff to kill themselves with. Clearly, this is politically motivated. Andrea came on the show, said so herself, especially when you go to the Labor and Industries website. How do you clean up a homeless encampment? There are no guidelines regulating it. So what they had to do is find something from medical centers about how to treat needles, use needles once they've been discarded, and how you deal with it. Now, Andrea has told me since this whole thing went viral, she's been getting calls from people who used to work for a lot of Homeless Inc., talking about the awful things they were exposed to while working in these locations. But they've never investigated Plymouth Housing for all the crime and drug use inside. They've never investigated Lehigh. They've never investigated any of it. What about King County Health? King County Health, which is just a contradiction in terms. They're literally giving you the stuff to kill yourself with. Going after the nice blonde lady who cleans up after all this with a volunteer organization and not going after the ones who help people kill themselves. Politically motivated. What predated that, though, was a couple months ago. Somebody, a very, 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 very activist organization, filed a complaint against our friends at Let's Go Washington and our friend Brandy Cruz. What are they claiming? That Let's Go Washington is getting donations from Cruz because she talks about the initiatives on her show. Which is nuts, by the way. Absolutely nuts. So by that logic, anytime I talk about anything on my show, it's an undisclosed campaign donation because I am helping that out. That's the logic. That's what they're trying to say. When they first filed this case, we told you how this law has been settled for almost 20 years. Kevin remembers this. You had John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur. They were fighting against a gas tax in 2005. And what happened was somebody decided to file a complaint against them. and say, no, these are undisclosed campaign donations because you're advocating against this gas tax. Oh, shock, shock. The conservative talk radio hosts are advocating against the tax. What happened was this thing went all the way to the Washington State Supreme Court. And you know who signed on to help them out with the case? The ACLU. That's how much things have changed. Saying they're protecting free speech. There was a unanimous ruling by the Washington State Supreme Court saying this is clearly free speech. They can say what they want. There's no there there. But there's a problem. What they were doing was in 2005. Legal system takes a while. Investigations take a while. And the ruling didn't come down till 2007. And by then, the fight was already over and the fight was already lost. So as much as we like to say, yeah, John won and Kirby won and KVI won in that little fight, they still lost because the gas tax went into effect. That is exactly what somebody is trying to do here. Brandy is one of the most influential political voices in Washington State right now. And they are mad that she is using her free speech and her platform to advocate for Let's Go Washington initiatives. How dare she try to keep businesses and people here in Washington by saying, you know what, this income tax is a really bad idea. How dare she advocate to protect girls' sports from boys with mental health issues and the people who affirm their mental health issues. How dare she advocate for parental rights to know what's going on with their kids in schools, and if somebody in school is calling them Violet when their name is Bob. How dare she? That's the same thing we do on the show here every single day. That's the same thing every conservative host does on the air every single day. Why'd they not come after me? Because who do I work for? KVI. It's settled law. Literally settled law. Unanimous Supreme Court decision. They file that, they'll look like complete morons. So what they're trying to do is they're saying, well, podcasters don't count. Media is media. Brandy has as much of a right to comment on anything she wants as much as that lunatic Hannah Krieg from The Burner or anybody at The Stranger or that Antifa gal Hannah Saunders. They all have as much right to comment on whatever they want without being undisclosed campaign violations. It's absolutely crazy. They're accusing Brandy of taking money from Let's Go Washington, and this is the same fight that they're trying to have with me and Jonathan Cho and Brandy over our press passes. They're trying to say, we got paid by Let's Go Washington. So you're not actually journalists, you're lobbyists. You're actually people who are lobbying on behalf of an organization. There's one little problem. I never got paid by Let's Go Washington. All those events I do for them, they are for free. My rule is simple. If you want to get me for an event, if you are fundraising, I charge you because then you can afford to pay me. That's the rule. If it's something I believe in, I will happily show up. And if it's for kids, I will happily show up for free. Those are my rules. And here's something else. They are often shocked about how little I make in public speaking fees. Do you know why? One, I don't charge that much. But two, most of these events are on Fridays and Saturdays. I think last year I turned down $25,000 in speaking fees because they're on Fridays and Saturdays. Ari, how are you at the Let's Go Washington event this weekend? I stayed at Brian Haywood's house. I stayed in Brian Haywood's basement. Nice basement, by the way. I stayed in Brian Haywood's house, so I didn't have to drive out there on the Sabbath. I walked around without a cell phone, without a wallet, without an anything, all day. People were like, that's archaic. How do you do that every weekend? That's what I do. This is what I do. So, getting back to this. They're claiming we advocated for Let's Go Washington, the press pass fight. Well, there's a little problem with that. They can't prove we got paid by them because it doesn't exist. So now we've had to get lawyers. We've had to spend time saying, you are looking for documents that do not exist. You want to make this easy? Go to Let's Go Washington's public filings. Do you see any payments for Ari Hoffman over there? No, because they don't exist. I've had it with this. I've absolutely had it with this. So last night, I was actually thinking about doing this for a couple days, but last night I had a little bit of extra time. I got home from seeing Mutiny. We'll do a review on that later in the week, the latest Jason Statham movie. Got to see it with a few KVI people. It was really nice. Ron was there. Matt Gilbert was there. It was really nice. But I got home and I said, you know what? I'm tired of this. And something snapped a little bit in me. And I said, screw it. So what did I do? I went to the Google machine and I started looking up every single connection between the Seattle Times and the effort to keep the Climate Commitment Act, which was against the repeal of the Climate Commitment Act in the 2024 election. So the Seattle Times has advocated many times through their climate lab to keep the Climate Commitment Act, which spiked your gas prices, which spiked your utility prices. And because it spiked your gas and utility prices, you know what else it did? It spiked the cost of goods and everything else you use. And the Seattle Times was advocating to keep the tax. But here's something interesting. The organizations, the political organizations that were fighting to keep the tax pay for the climate lab at the Seattle Times, a little section. This is how the Seattle Times stays in business, by the way. It's not really subscribers anymore. They get these corporations or donors or whoever it is to pay for these little sections. The climate lab, the education lab, Project Homeless. So because people are paying for those with grants, then what happens is the Seattle Times stays afloat. So what I did last night was I pulled up every single time I could find where the Seattle Times published an article in favor of the Climate Commitment Act through the Climate Lab. Then I pulled up their advertising rates. By my math, the Seattle Times gave to the campaign against repealing the Climate Commitment Act somewhere between $44,000 and $100,000, and that's before anything they posted on social media, because I don't know what their social media algorithms are. They gave this money in undisclosed campaign donations. Undeclared campaign donations. You want to play this game? Then let's play. So what I did, I spent an hour or two last night putting this into a document, and I filed a mirror complaint with the Public Disclosure Commission against the Seattle Times. The Seattle Times now has a formal complaint seeking a Washington Public Disclosure Commission investigation into whether the newspaper violated Washington campaign finance laws by failing to disclose potentially reportable political advertising and in-kind support connected with the 2024 campaign against Initiative 2117, which sought to repeal the Climate Commitment Act. The complaint focuses on the Seattle Times Climate Lab, which launched in 2024, the same year as the initiative. What are the odds of that? Had 4 dedicated newsroom positions and was described by the newspaper as funded largely through philanthropic support. The Seattle Foundation served as the Seattle Lab's fiscal sponsor. During the same election, Seattle Foundation campaigned against Initiative 2117. Publishing Protect the Climate Commitment Act, Vote No on I-2117, identified as paid for by the Seattle Foundation. So I am alleging that they sponsored the Climate Lab in the Seattle Times so that it looked like the paper of record here in Washington was actively telling you how much we need to keep this tax. But they didn't say they were also the ones behind stopping the initiative. The complaint asked the PDC to investigate the relationship between the Climate Lab and the Clean and Prosperous Risk of Repeal Project. Clean and Prosperous conducted outreach intended to help the media use its materials, while Clean and Prosperous Institute reported approximately $176,832 in CCA mapping education expenditures. On October 18, 2024, just 18 days before Election Day, Climate Lab published Washington's carbon market pumps billions of dollars to state projects. What happens if it vanishes? Clean and Prosperous subsequently identified that specific Seattle Times article as risk of repeal amplification. Literally saying this article in the Seattle Times is helping our case. Washington's campaign finance laws must be applied consistently. The Seattle Times has every right to editorialize against an initiative. The question is whether outside organizations involved in defeating initiatives, or supporting initiatives for that matter, provided money, research, data, services, or other things of value used to produce or distribute election-related communications without required disclosure. Climate Lab was funded with outside money. Its fiscal sponsor was publicly campaigning against I-2117. And Clean and Prosperous says it provided risk of repeal resources to the media and later identified the Seattle Times reporting as amplification of this effort. I did all this in an hour last night on my Microsoft Surface. I did this with a little help of Google. Imagine if I had an entire day. Imagine if I had a newsroom staff of 4, what I could do. And I filed this PDC complaint. I also used the exact same language that was used in the complaint against Let's Go Washington and Brandy Cruz. And if you think this is hard, it's really not. You guys want to play a game over free speech and restricting free speech? Then let's go. Let's go. Because I promise you, there are more pissed off people here in Washington than you have lobbyists. And the ones on our side are tech bros who have AI. Some of them founded their own AI companies. How would you like it if I asked one of them to task AI with just 24 hours a day filing PDC complaints against all the shenanigans you guys have been up to? The fact that you guys keep releasing these press releases to these idiot news outlets that get everything wrong, trying to besmirch the names of Brandy, Let's Go Washington, Brian Haywood, Future 42, Steve Gordon, anybody else, is complete BS. How many tech guys do you think are mad about the fact that they have to move their companies out of Washington? How many of them are using AI right now? How many of them are developing AI right now? Do you guys really want this? And let me tell you what I've done in the past, just so you know. There was this local group that ran a best of thing every year, a best of Jewish Washington, right? I used to run a youth organization. So you know what I did one day? I really wanted to win the competition. So I said to the kids who were in the youth organization, I said, guys, nobody put a restriction on how many times you can enter this thing. Can you do me a favor, and while you're bored in class on your cell phones, just enter it like 100 times? And they said, sure, no problem. We won the award, and they said by the largest margin in history that they've never had so many entrants talking about how wonderful our organization was. The following year, some kid wrote an algorithm, a program, this was like 15 years ago, to just keep entering every 5 minutes, every day the contest was going on for, because they didn't have anything in place to stop it. So we won again. And then I just had that kid do it every single year. You think I can't do this with PDC complaints? You think I can't do this with L&I complaints? And here's something else. While all you let your heads hit the pillows at night, you think I can't do this with OSHA and get the feds involved too? You bet I can. So you guys want to stop and play fair now? You guys want to stop restricting free speech? Or do you want to see how ramped up we can get? Because I guarantee you, I will win. I may not win this election, but I will bury you in legal trouble for ages, long after this campaign is over. These dirty tricks need to stop. They need to stop. And if they do not, We'll talk about Plymouth Housing and what they're doing with needles and giving them out to people. And maybe we'll let OSHA know about that. And maybe we'll file some complaints with L&I for that because it's all true. This isn't blackmail. This isn't a threat. This is actually what you guys are doing. You want to keep restricting free speech. We will keep playing by the rules you have set with this game. This is settled law. But what your goal is to sully the names of the people involved. What your goal is to try and make people think they shouldn't give money to Let's Go Washington or they'll be investigated. They shouldn't support Brandy's podcast or they'll be investigated. And I've had it with this nonsense. I've absolutely had it. Now, if you want to be part of the fun, it's real easy. I can tell you exactly how to do it. If you want to actually take the time filing these complaints, there are people who can do it. You can reach out to me. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. And we'll just keep doing it till this election cycle is over. And we will bury you guys in legal nightmares. We will do that. Because I've had it with you guys using the levers of power to bully other people just because they disagree with you, just because they're advocating for something else. And the Democrats are in control of all the levers of power in Washington state. So, I'm just telling you guys, the PDC filings will continue until morale improves. That is what we are going to keep doing. I promise you that. Do I have a lot of time for this? Absolutely not. But I'm sure a lot of my listeners are retired and probably do and would like nothing better than to continue this. I'm available, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com if you want to talk about this further. Stop bullying my friends. Stop using the levers of power. Stop abusing the levers of power should really be what it is. Or we're going to keep doing this, and we'll keep doing this, and we'll keep doing this. I'll do it 24/6 because I'm not available on Saturdays until you guys stop. Speaking of people who may need to stop, do you think Katie Wilson's actually going to make it through a whole term? Latest polling says she may be done before she even attempts re-election. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. For everybody from the Seattle Times and the PDC and everywhere else that's listening to the show today, wondering what I was going to say, you know how I said there's a bunch of retired people that listen to the show that would be willing to help? This is an email from one of them that I just got. I will not name this person. Ari, I am retired! Exclamation point. Please send me information on helping fight this battle and file complaints as mentioned in your program today. And you know how you know they're retired and have lots of time on their hands? They use the word program. So, Seattle Times, this is what you are dealing with, and that's not the only email I got, and that's not the only text I got. You want to stop this nonsense, or you want to go? Because we can make that happen. Now, somebody has asked me to give a shout-out to the Tacoma Little League team. I don't know the name of the team. I know they're in the World Series, but I don't know the name of the team. They asked me to give a shout-out to the team. I don't know the team. Kevin's looking it up right now. Who's in the Little League World Series? Are they up 2 games? Are they up 1 game right now? But anyway, Tacoma Little League World Series bound team that's in the World Series right now. You know what I think, guys? I think you guys should take over for the Mariners. I think that after last night's performance, I think you guys could do way better than the Mariners. 22-0. Holy cow. I just made a few jokes about the Mariners season's kind of winding on downhill. I didn't know it was so bad they were literally going to throw a ball when they're down 19-0, literally throw a ball into the stands. Man, that was something to behold. This clip here of that play. Oh, man, Julio, what were you doing, man? From Mariners.tv.
Rivas is not having any fun with this. Then the sacrificial man.
Yelich to center. Julio is there, and he makes the catch. And Julio threw the ball into the seats. That was the second out. And so the runners are going to advance 2 bases, which will score another run. And this just adds to a miserable night here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it did. Man, that was sad.
Now you know why those guys put up their 2 fingers in the air, letting everyone know that's the second out.
That's 2 outs, guys. So that's why. As if, Kevin, there's this thing in baseball stadiums. They don't always have them at Little League stadiums.
Yeah.
There's this giant thing that lights up with huge letters and numbers on it, where if you're not sure how many outs there are, just take a look at it.
Turn around, look at it. Yeah. The name of the team is the Soundview Little League team.
The Soundview Little League team. So congratulations to the Soundview Little League team. I'll tell you what, to the people who reached out, if you have a connection with the team, if they win even if they don't win the whole thing, let's have them on the show. Let's have a couple of the kids on the show. We like when local kids do good. Let's have a few of them on the show and talk about what it's like at the Little League World Series. That'd be great. If anybody here is listening and knows anybody from the Soundview Little League team, reach out to me, arikvi.com. That's arikvi.com, and we are more than happy to have them on because we love celebrating when local kids do good. We love that kind of stuff. Wow, Katie Wilson. Wow. A new poll is out from Change Washington. You thought it was bad yesterday when 2/3 of voters disapproved with her public safety plan? Now 2/3 of Seattle voters disapprove of her. Over 60% say she should resign or be removed. When is the last time you ever heard anybody in Seattle or 60% of Seattle agree on anything? She has a 22% approval rating. By the way, according to the most recent polling, President Trump has a 33% approval rating. So if you want to know how bad it is for Katie Wilson, you're 11 points down on President Trump. Among Seattle Democrats, 60% disapprove of Wilson's performance. Only 28% approve. That's among Democrats. Among independents, 79% disapprove and just 8% approve. They didn't even bother listing Republicans here because I think that would just be 100%. And I actually think it would cheapen it. Plus, where are you going to find a Republican in Seattle? Katie Wilson is an absolute failure. And let me tell you why this matters a little bit more. If you have no political capital, the city council doesn't have to do what you want. If you're popular and then you say, I want something done, the city council refuses to do it, then guess what? The city council looks bad. But now the Seattle City Council, for the first time in years, looks good. Katie Wilson looks bad, which means she's not going to get her agenda accomplished. So we've had, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mayors in the last 20 years, Kevin. It's some insane number between all the interims and everything else. So what has it been? Since McSchwinn, I think everybody's been a one-term mayor since then. Let's see. Harrell, Durkin, Murray. we can just keep going back and back. I think the last 5 of them have been one term. She's not even a year into office, and she's going to be a one-term mayor. Como News' senior reporter, Chris Daniels, was at one of her pressers yesterday, and it got ugly.
And with respect to the housing community, it's the first time that we've seen you in a couple of weeks to have a chance to ask you questions about other things. There's been a recall filed against you that you know has moved forward. This is your chance to respond to that recall. How do you respond to the allegations in that recall effort?
So that is a legal process that will be playing out. I'm focused on leading the city and on making it an affordable place for people to live, and that's the work that we're here to discuss today.
And Mayor, again, with all due respect to people in the room, we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. We have to ask these questions. Again, there's an active investigation into the Bite of Seattle murders. There's still not been a person arrested for that. There's been public polling to suggest that in the wake of that, people would like to have a closed-circuit television camera system expanded that I know that you've opposed in the past. 75% of the public says they want these things. The cameras that were on outside the Cowgirls, Inc., that were on during the World Cup were turned off, and there was an unsolved shooting there as well. Does all of this now change your perspective on that issue, given those shootings and given the public polling suggesting that people want to have those cameras on?
So we're continuing to follow the course that I laid out earlier this year, which is that as we speak, there is an audit being conducted of privacy, data security, storage sharing practices for our CCTV system. We expect the results of that audit to be coming out, I believe, around the end of September. So that will be a decision point where we can share those results publicly and make a decision about whether to move forward with the expansion of the CCTV cameras.
Gee, how many shootings can happen between now and September? How much worse can it get for her? How many more crimes? How many more assaults? She did this to herself, by the way, with her own incompetence. This is what happens when you hire somebody who never had a job before. Interns screw up. That's why they're interns. We literally elected an intern as a mayor, a 44-year-old intern. Well done, everybody. Up next, my friends, GOP is kicking out extremists in the primaries. Democrats seem to be collecting and recruiting more of them. Tell you all about what happened in Florida and across the country last night when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Can't we just have one night of primaries? Do we really have to do this state by state? Can't it just be, okay, we all do this in June? So you can spend the whole summer campaigning. Every week, there's another set of states having a primary. Anyway, Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida, is now the Republican nominee for governor of Florida. Ron DeSantis is term limited, so he's done this year. Now, the Democrats seem to be embracing every radical lunatic they can find. But the GOP seems to be getting rid of them in every single primary. So you have this guy, James Fishback. James Fishback is one of these Nick Fuentes Groyper types, these white supremacist types. I mean, some of the stuff he put out against Byron Donalds was just because he was black. I've met Byron Donalds before. I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times. And I got to say, that is an intense fellow. Also, I would never want to get on his bad side. But he is a really good guy. He always is looking out for America. Every discussion I've had with him, he knows his facts. He knows what he's talking about, which is refreshing because, unfortunately, a lot of the politicians I've interviewed on both sides of the aisle, well, let me just say this. A friend of mine one time said politicians are like puddles. Very, very shallow and spread out everywhere. By that he meant they know a lot about a little. Right? But Byron Donalds, that guy is sharp. He's great. I think he's fantastic. He has the courage of his convictions. And unfortunately, that's a rare thing in politics these days. So, bye-bye, James Fishback. Goodbye. Got rid of that dude. Yeah, got rid of Fishback. Got rid of Blitzerian, who was running these literal anti-Semitic ads against Congressman Randy Fine. These things were insane. So, we're getting rid of all these guys. Democrats, not so much. Not so much. It seems like they're actually embracing the crazy. So here's far-left Florida Democrat Angie Nixon, who pulled off a stunning upset last night. Give a listen to what she said.
And what that looks like is passing common sense legislation like Medicare for all. Healthcare is a right. We should not be allowing people to deny life-saving medical procedures or medicine because it's hurting someone's bottom line, right? We need to make sure that we're passing things like universal child care so that we can ensure that parents have the opportunity to get to work and children have a strong foundation. And also definitely ending for-profit prisons. Why are we incentivizing people to not actually educate our children the way that they should be educated and ushering them into the school-to-prison pipeline so that they can make more money off of them when they are incarcerated?
Okay, how do you plan on paying for all that? How? I'm just kind of curious. Oh, I know, tax the rich, right? Do you know if you confiscate every single dollar from every single millionaire and billionaire in the United States, you confiscate every single one, do you know how long you'll be able to run the federal government for? 9 months. 9 months. And you'll have no industries left. That is a spending problem, not a revenue problem. Yeah, Democrats are just embracing the crazy. Luckily, some of the more moderate Democrats were able to hold off more of their lefty challengers. And it's Florida, by the way, so your Democrats are going to be more blue dog Democrats. So I wouldn't read too much into that, but the socialist wave is happening coast to coast. Be careful, my friends, when radical organizations like the Council for American Islamic Relations, talk about how they have 63 candidates going to the general election in Washington State. That's a scary, scary thing. Don't get excited because a few of them were defeated down in Florida. We know that Florida, Ron DeSantis won by 20 points. That's what you're talking about down there, guys. Up next, you know who's also defeated by 20 points? A company who went woke and then went broke. Tell you about how this giant company has fallen from grace in profits because of the decisions they made. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Go woke, go broke, they say about certain companies. Now, this next article I'm kind of torn about, and let me tell you why. I want American companies to be successful. I want Washington companies to be successful. When I get those notices that a company is laying people off, which we've gotten a lot of recently, which we'll discuss in our next segment at the top of the hour, I get, oh, yes, story. And then I'm like, oh, no, another company's leaving. How much longer until it's people I know who are getting laid off? I already know some people who got laid off from Starbucks and Microsoft and Amazon and elsewhere who don't live here anymore, thanks to all this. So this next one, I'm actually kind of bittersweet about. So what's happening is Senator Ted Cruz is calling out how Nike's stock has hit a 12-year low. Now, they're still selling plenty of Air Jordans, but I'm just not sure what else they might be selling. Because ever since the Colin Kaepernick insanity, a lot of people have actually just been looking for other sneakers and other sportswear. So Ted Cruz posted on X, sad and predictable. Exactly right. Sad and predictable. Where he reiterated that Nike's decision to nix its Betsy Ross-themed shoe was how the company lost me. Quote, for my whole life, I wore nearly 100% Nike for athletic wear. Kaepernick pissed me off. But when they canceled the Betsy Ross shoe, it showed that their marketing plan was America hate. I went out and bought brand new shoes, shorts, and T-shirts. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Hashtag go woke, go broke. Nike's stock price, according to Fox News, hit a 12-year low earlier this week, dropping nearly 80% since the company's all-time high in 2021. The years-long downward tumble saw nearly $200 billion in market value erased for the company, which 5 years ago saw its share price hit an all-time high of $177.51. Now, I have a question for the audience. Do you think this is because of Colin Kaepernick? Or do you think this is because so many other brands have upped their game in the marketplace? For example, aside from Air Jordan, I don't remember the last time I saw Nike have a big promotion for anything or a player that they were really excited about. I've seen Adidas. I've seen Reebok. I've seen a whole bunch of these other companies. Haven't seen Nike as much as others. Well, when your stock price is taking a tumble, you don't have as much money to spend. It means people aren't spending as much money. Maybe you need a blitzkrieg advertising campaign. Let's not forget, the Colin Kaepernick insanity happened, what, in 2016? That's 10 years ago, guys. But a 10-year slide, that's super bad. Really, really bad. And the question is, how do you turn it around? I mean, look, Reese's Pieces was about to go bankrupt. You know how they turned it around? E.T. The movie E.T. Why is it Reese's in E.T. as opposed to anything else? You pay enough money, that alien, he likes them Reese's Pieces. Could have been Hershey's, could have been, I think it was supposed to be M&M's. And M&M didn't want to pay for it. So they put the Reese's Pieces in, and now, guess what? We're still eating Reese's Pieces, which, by the way, I'm not even a peanut butter guy. I think a Reese's Pieces is infinitely superior to an M&M. I like chocolate. I like chocolate way better than peanut butter. But I think a Reese's Pieces, if those suckers are in front of me, I will finish the bowl. I will finish the dish. I will finish the bag. And I do not discriminate about those suckers. I will just grab a handful and I will shovel those. The peanut butter cups, I will eat those all day long. Thank you, E.T. Thank you so much, E.T., for that. I do appreciate that so much. I do appreciate that, E.T. So it's real easy. When you get a brand where you have a good marketing campaign, you do great. If you get a Dylan Mulvaney, you're screwed. So stop doing this stuff, and you won't lose your American customers. Who are you trying to appeal to? The people who really don't get out of their basement very much, or the people who actually buy your product? That's really what it's about, guys. It's the people who buy your product versus the people who don't buy your product. And, well, Colin Kaepernick, I don't think he's selling any sneakers anytime soon. He might be working at Foot Locker selling sneakers. Wait, are there Foot Lockers around anymore? Haven't seen that dude in a while. Haven't seen him around. Up next, my friends, another company is closing here in Washington, shuttering its doors because of Democrat policies. Also, Department of Children, Youth, and Families was audited. Looks like they did everything we said they did, including daycare shenanigans. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. Coming up this hour on the most dangerous show on the airwaves, the Democratic National Committee officially adopts open borders and defunding the police as part of its party platform. Plus, do you suffer from Israel derangement syndrome? We'll tell you how to recognize the symptoms. But before we get to any of that, since last week, we've been seeing more and more of these notices that tell you that companies are laying off people or companies are closing here in Washington. I actually subscribed to this list so that I could see them. I was wondering how all these different news sites found out about this stuff so quickly. You just get on their email list, and guess what? You get them. So now I get them. And in fact, I think I'm getting them before the Puget Sound Business Journal is getting them, which is where everybody else gets them from. Now, construction material wholesaler Norwesco is closing its facility in Fife and laying off over 54 employees, including 43 union workers. It's a permanent layoff. The location entirely closed. Now, when I saw this, I thought about a report that we got from the Employment Department in Washington State just last week, which was talking about some of the biggest sectors which are seeing declines and closures is the manufacturing sector. Seeing it more and more, tech sector, manufacturing sector, closing more and more. Where are the gains we're getting around here? In healthcare and government. That's it. Those are where we are gaining, which is not great because that means healthcare costs are going up and you have less of a tax base to pay for them. You have less people to offset the costs. This means things are only going to get more expensive around here. And when you lose manufacturing companies, when you lose manufacturing jobs, guys, this is it. This is what happens. Last one in Seattle, last one in Washington. Turn off the lights. According to Cairo 7, Norwesco is part of the Gibraltar, can't speak English today, Building Accessories Division, a network of manufacturers with facilities spread across the United States, including Texas, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Utah, and California. However, Norwesco's Fife plant was the only GBA facility in the Pacific Northwest region, serving as a division's manufacturing hub for the West Coast and British Columbia. So you're not closing in Texas, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Utah. You're only closing here. Interesting. Fascinating. I wonder why that is. Norwesco sells products for all things roof-related, including arched vinyl, corner beads, flashings, conductor heads, horizontal siding, soffit, steel framing, stucco and plaster, tile accessories, and ventilation. So these aren't unique items. Like I was talking with a guy a while ago who told me he laser prints, this is his business, he laser prints nerd stuff for guys like me. He told me that's his job. And he sells this stuff for a pretty penny on eBay and things like that. So it's not a specialty item where you go down economy. Look, I just had part of the flashing on my house replaced. You know why? There's a leak, and the winter's coming, and we live in the Pacific Northwest. So you know what? I hired a friend, and he took care of my flashing, and now we're good to go. These are things you need no matter what. If your roof is having problems and the winter's coming up, even if it's a down economy, you may shop around a little, you may choose a cheaper contractor, but you're still going to do it. This is what we call a recession-proof business. Why do you think they are closing their manufacturing plant here? Here's another one for you. I'm sure people are just going to blame AI for this one, right? TikTok is laying off 75 workers in the Seattle region, focused largely on the company's e-commerce business. Job titles listed in the notice are almost entirely TikTok shop and global e-commerce roles in Bellevue, Washington, including anti-fraud and governance program managers, seller and creator operations staff, campaign managers, data scientists, back-end and front-end engineers. Wait a second. Governance program managers, anti-fraud, those are not jobs that get replaced with AI yet. Maybe down the road, but not yet. seller, creator, operation staff. These aren't the AI jobs, guys. Oh, you're laying them off here in our area because here's where you get taxed more for those jobs. I understand. I get it. Even GeekWire is finally admitting it's not AI anymore. GeekWire, which loves to say it's AI, they're actually in the industry. If you know what you're doing with AI, your company is growing. It's part of a steady stream of tech layoffs this year, they say. Zillow cut more than 500 jobs, including 91 in Washington State. Microsoft eliminated 605 positions in the state in July as part of a broader reduction of 4,800 people. Google cut 52 jobs. Salesforce cut 59 locally this month. By the way, minor correction. Somebody told me I thought Salesforce was owned by Microsoft. They are not. They are their own thing. So my mistake in that regard. The notice Tuesday was filed by TT Commerce Global Services, LLC. On TikTok letterhead, lists 2 ByteDance employees as contacts. It also gives the affected facility as Lincoln Square North in Bellevue. So, my friends, Bellevue, which was able to get all those good jobs out of Seattle, is now being affected by Washington's stupidity. Because you may flee Seattle, but you know what's on the agenda for this coming legislative session? They tried this the last one. They're going to try to do that stupid payroll tax that Seattle did that chased all those jobs to Amazon. They're going to try and do it across the entire state. So Bellevue may be sitting pretty for the moment, but soon Seattle's going to be the drug-infested ghost town. Bellevue will just be the ghost town because at least they'll still be enforcing their laws, assuming some good-minded people stay in office around there. So we'll have all the druggies. They'll have everything else. In fact, there's some people around here. This guy, he's a former Bremerton city council member, Mike Simpson. He actually testified at a city council meeting the other day about how bad the homeless problem got out there in Bremerton during the World Cup. He actually wants all the homeless people to go back to Seattle. Apparently they got shipped out, and it's just been growing and growing and growing. This is a former Bremerton city council member. He knows what's up. Give a listen to what he said.
When they're not in the shelter during the day, they go out on the streets. They cause the problems that we keep talking about. They're addicted to drugs. They're suffering from mental illness. We're not addressing it, but we've done it with Pendleton Place. And every time that we put more dollars into homelessness, it seems to explode and get bigger. So what are we going to do with this problem? Are we going to keep funding it? Are we going to keep enabling bad behavior? Are we going to keep doing the things that we shouldn't be doing? Or are we going to take a stand and say, no, we're not going to change this ordinance? And that's what we should do. Now, additionally, Vice Chair, Commissioner Peterson, I believe that you need to recuse yourself from this discussion because you have already addressed your opinion in the last meeting. By doing so, you have changed the nature of what the conversation is. So I think you really need to readdress that. Now, back to the issue at hand. What are we going to do about this? Well, we have shelters that are available. We have things that are available for people who want the help, but they don't go and get the help because they want to stay addicted to drugs. They want to stay addicted to alcohol. They don't believe that their mental illness is affecting their behavior, but it is. Now, we can do the things that are more appropriate with this money, with the things that would be involved in doing this. We can lobby our state to change our intake laws for folks who have mental health issues, who have addiction issues, and we can get those we can intake those folks and involuntarily commit them so they don't come out and continue to commit crimes, in our area. Or better yet, we have another solution. There's the ferry terminal over there. They can seek services back in Seattle where many of them are from. And that should sink in. We should not be doing this. We should not be doing more than we are absolutely absolutely necessary, and this is not necessary. Thank you.
Exactly right. They should be back in Seattle. No, they shouldn't be here at all. They shouldn't be here either. The problem is Seattle keeps enabling it. You know a scary statistic about Washington? According to the most recent numbers I've been looking at from the employment department, we are chasing away the wealth, the people who produce, and we are importing the people who leech off society. That's the problem. So we were very robust and we had lots of money and we had lots of wealth. And now we are chasing all that away to import people who keep sucking up all that money and need all the services. And I'm not saying there aren't people who need help in government services. But when you get rid of the people who are paying for the help in government services, how do you plan on fixing all this? That's one little thing they are planning on doing next legislative session. I want to remind you of the list that Representative Travis Couture put out. He's a Republican, and he is cautioning everybody about what is coming our way if the Democrats get a supermajority next year in the legislature in January. Statewide payroll tax on jobs, as I mentioned before, modeled after Seattle's disastrous Jumpstart head tax. A new tax on unrealized capital gains, which is money you've invested for things like retirement but have not collected. Tripling property taxes, increasing it annually by inflation and population. They've already done that. Reduce the threshold of new state income tax below $1 million to apply to the middle class. If we don't, repeal it in November. A new margins tax scheme. More reckless spending, more deficits, where Democrats cut the vulnerable in programs that work to give even more to their special interests. So, for example, they cut Medicare, they cut Medicaid, they cut schooling, and now they're blaming Republicans. Effectively eliminating juvenile detention for juvenile gang offenders like the bite of Seattle shooter. Hey, two of those guys are still on the loose, right? What was the last description we got of them? Blue shirt. One of them has a blue shirt. I assume he's changed it by now, washed it a couple times. Kevin, you're not wearing a blue shirt. I don't think you're one of the bite of Seattle shooters. I don't think you fit the profile either. Using state government to sell and distribute hard drugs like fentanyl. Yes, as I mentioned, they have vending machines up in British Columbia for fentanyl. Eliminating penalties for sex offenders who prey on children. Close down prisons and early release violent criminals into communities. Reduce law enforcement. Eliminate bail. Destroy our criminal justice system by making it impossible to obtain a public defense. Effectively releasing criminals before they ever see a courtroom. Redistricting Republican lawmakers out of existence to create a permanent and generational Democratic supermajority. Yeah, they'll do it. They've already tried to do it to Nikki Torres. That is what they are going to do if they get power. And how are they once they're running these government agencies, by the way? A new Washington State Auditor's Office report found the Department of Children, Youth, and Families failed to comply with state law and its own policies in multiple areas involving child safety, while auditors also found continuing problems with the agency's handling of gift cards. The accountability audit, published August 17th, examined DCYF operations from July 1st through 2024 through July 30th, 2025. Auditors focused on areas they determined presented the highest risk of fraud, loss, abuse, or noncompliance. Digging into fraud in daycares, you say, Why didn't you do that beforehand? Now we're looking into this? Why do you think they're looking into this now? By the way, this is the stuff the auditor will admit to. How much more is out there? Why do you think all of a sudden they're admitting there's fraud, waste, and abuse with daycares in Washington State? The auditor's office found that DCYF did not have adequate internal controls, did not comply with state law, and its own policing regarding unlicensed child care investigations. Auditors sampled 25 completed investigations, found 12% were not initiated within the required 1 business day, with some responses beginning as much as 30 days late. 20% did not receive an unannounced visit within the required 5 business days, while 32% of investigations were not closed within the required 45 days. Auditors also found 5 cases in which DCYF failed to post information showing that a provider was operating without a license. The auditor's office warned that improperly closing cases in the agency's Washington Compass system limits the public's ability to determine whether a child care provider is fully licensed. Why do you think they would improperly close cases? Maybe it would be to limit the public's ability to determine whether a child care provider is fully licensed? Now, when they get to the blame, here's my favorite part. DCYF blamed insufficient resources. Oh, so you know what's going to happen? They're going to show up at the legislature this year and say, look at all the fraud we found. It's because you don't give us enough money. You need to give us more money and there will be less fraud. Government logic, right? because we did such a terrible job, because we did such a bad job, because the auditor says we did a bad job, you got to give us more money. They're like the dentist kids in Parks and Rec. Money, please. Money, please. That's what this is. I don't even think they ask for please anymore. I think they just say, give it to me. Give it to me now. It's like Wednesday Addams and Addams Family. Wednesday, what do we say? Now. That's what it's like. More like that. The agency is now seeking additional taxpayer funding for a proposed 17-employee child care licensing, accountability, and compliance unit. The grift continues. Auditors separately concluded DCYF did not have adequate internal controls over, did not comply with state law and its own policies regarding child abuse and neglect investigations. Of 33 CPS investigations sampled, 16 involved allegations of serious physical or sexual abuse. Auditors initially found DCYF lacked documentation showing that workers were even assigned to those cases. DCYF later determined that one worker had actually completed the training, but the agency's records had not been updated. However, the agency acknowledged in the other case, the worker conducted an interview without having completed the legally required training. So how do they even know what they're looking for? What an absolute mess. An absolute mess. And these are kids in the care of Washington State. DCYF spent nearly $2 million on gift cards across 62 regional offices. That's an expensive Christmas. That's a really expensive Christmas. Kevin gets me good stuff for Christmas every year. He gets me the candies that I love. He gets me a Starbucks gift card. That's all you need to show employee appreciation. I'm a happy man. What do I get for my coworkers? I get them alcohol. That's what I get for my coworkers because I'm nice like that. And I've got a lot of reward points at Total Wine. We don't need to discuss why. Anywho, this is something you're giving out $2 million in gift cards with taxpayer money? Usually, Kevin, I mean, you just shake your head yes or no, okay? I assume you're not using KVI money to buy our Christmas presents. You go out and buy, right, see? You buy that for yourself. I'm not using money I get, well, I guess technically that's my salary, but I'm not using KVI money to get you guys presents.
I wish I was using KVI money but you know what? There are not too many people to buy gifts. It's me and you this time.
That's right. That's where it's just us around here. Just us. So yeah, not that many people to buy presents for this year. So, anywho, they're using taxpayer money for Christmas presents. You know what a Christmas present is? I really appreciate your work. I really like working with you. Here's a token of my appreciation. If the company wants to get you, I don't know, thermoses or something like that, where they put a sticker on the side of the thermos and say, look, we got it branded for you. It'll come off the first time it gets washed. You can do that. You can do that. But you shouldn't be spending taxpayer money on things like that. Shouldn't be doing that. So while kids were not being saved from abuse, while this program was being defrauded, your money was being spent on gift cards. Gift cards. That's what it was. Unbelievable. You want to say, they're going to families? I don't believe it for a second. I want to know how many people who are employees were getting these gift cards. The grift continues. Just watch. They're going to be asking for it. In fact, they'll just get it right away. And they'll say, look, we addressed fraud. We addressed fraud. Just watch. It's going to be the next legislative session if the Democrats get a supermajority. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, my friends. Up next, speaking of what the Democrats are going to do if they get more power, their official party platform nationally is calling for open borders, defunding the police, and so much more. We'll tell you about the craziness they adopted at their convention when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, head on over to KVI.com. Over there, you can sign up to become a KVI insider. That way, you find out about all our events, contests, and big announcements that may or may not be happening by September. Might hear about a few things. Who knows? Stuff may be happening. You might find out. Anywho, speaking of big announcements, the Democratic National Committee, according to the Daily Wire, adopted a resolution Saturday urging congressional Democrats to abolish ICE. Make no mistake about it, my friends. Abolishing ICE, defunding ICE, that is the new defunding the police. Democrats basically realized defunding the police was unpopular. So now they're hoping you will forget all the chaos and mayhem. They are hoping you will forget what happened when you let in 10 million illegal aliens and all the kids like Lake and Riley who were murdered by illegals and all the drugs that came across the border. They are hoping you forget that, and then you go forward and back them to abolish ICE. The abolition measure, known as Resolution 27, cleared the DNC's Resolutions Committee on Thursday in a 25-12 vote, with one abstention before heading to the full membership. Both resolutions were bundled into a larger package and approved by the full membership on a unanimous voice vote, according to the Washington Times. The vote is non-binding, does not change the party platform for 2028, but this is the direction they are going in. So, you know how the Democrats love to say they secured the border? They're literally planning ahead for if they get Congress, if they get the White House, how they can do as much damage as possible to make the border unsecure, to make sure the border is wide open, to let in as many illegal aliens as possible. Now, you think to yourself, Ari, what does a party platform really have to do with anything? And let me give you a little peek behind the scenes. So I went to the RNC convention when President Trump was running for re-election. And I had never been there before. And this is kind of a funny moment. I'm walking with young Zach and Jeff Pogula, and we're walking through the thing, and I'm playing bagel dropping. And you go, what's bagel dropping? It's known as Spot the Jew. Where do you see somebody who's Jewish around here? And I see this one couple walking, and I go, those are my people. They're going to know where there's kosher sandwiches. So I walk on over. And I'm like, Shalom Aleichem. How you doing? What's happening? How's it going? Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, hey, guys, do you know where I can get do you know where like the kosher food is? Oh, no problem. You had your fish stolen by a certain retired radio host? No problem. We know where you can get a sandwich. We know. We got you hooked up. No problem. In fact, do you need a synagogue? Do you need a this? They start going down the whole list. I'm like, wow. You guys like know everything. Oh, yeah, we'll add you to the WhatsApp group. Here's the Jewish WhatsApp group. Well, I go, how do you know all this? We've been here for a month. Been here for a month? The thing's 3 days long. What have you been doing here for a month? We're part of the committee that establishes the party platform. And we've been here working on it so all of you can enjoy all the parties and everything else. So you guys can enjoy the prime time. We had to come up with the party platform. And they told me it was a very, very big fight. Why? President Trump wanted simple. Here's our 10 points. Here's our 15 points, whatever it is. Then the Heritage Foundation comes in with Project whatever it was, 2025, and they go, here's a Megillah. And the Trump people were saying, keep it simple. The Americans are not going to read your Project 2025 craziness. Focus on the basic stuff, and then you will get elected. And that's what they did. And that's actually been the policies that Trump has been working on this entire time. The party platform may seem like it doesn't mean much, but it really means the direction the party is going and what they're prioritizing. I guarantee you, if they get Congress, if they get the Senate, if they get the House, if they get any of the stuff, the first thing they're going to do, because they control the purse strings, is cut the funding for the Border Patrol, for ICE, for everything else. Well, this can't be totally bad, right? This will work out perfectly fine. Sure, like this next story. An immigrant in Minnesota who once received an outstanding refugee award from the state government, according to Fox News, has been charged with Medicaid fraud. What an outstanding refugee! Charged with Medicaid fraud, prompting strong backlash on social media. Salam Ahmed Elmi is facing 3 counts of aiding and abetting by swindle, 5 counts of aiding and abetting by false representation as part of an alleged scam to bill Medicaid for over $1 million in fraudulent services. The charge is also alleged that 2 members involved in the fraud scheme were tied to a sex trafficking ring involving brothels. Wow, them Somalis really know how to party, don't they? This sounds like a lot of fun. In 2021, the Minnesota Department of Human Services, an agency deeply involved in the massive fraud scheme that had unfolded across the state in recent years, honored Elmi with the title Outstanding Refugee, along with the Entrepreneurship Award. Well, he truly found a new way to take care of the world's oldest profession, didn't he now? Yes, defrauding the government to pay for your brothels. Fraud is so rampant in this demographic that's rewarded instead of punished. ACT for America founder Brigitte Gabriel posted on X, when the system celebrates the looters, you have a culture problem. Yes, Refugee of the Year award. Hang on. What other refugees of the year do we have here? According to the Daily Wire, an Islamist illegal alien murderer was allowed to escape back to his home country thanks to Virginia officials who failed to get a guilty verdict even after he admitted guilt, helped him get a foreign passport, and allowed him to leave the mental hospital on unsupervised visits. I remember back when Seattle wasn't as crazy as it is now, I was driving near Swedish, and I see a guy walking down the street with a massive head wound that's wrapped up, and he's wearing a hospital gown, and that's it, wide open in the back. And I said, that dude probably escaped. that dude probably shouldn't be out on the street right now. We should probably get him back inside. No, here, they helped this guy get a foreign passport. Let him leave the hospital during unsupervised visits. In 2019, this guy whose name I can't pronounce stabbed his roommate, Mohammed Hemishin, to death in their Virginia home. He was found covered in blood from head to toe, told police, I am guilty. Yet, they weren't able to convict this guy. And they released him and managed to escape the U.S. Excellent. Well done. Well done, everybody. This is the best and brightest. He should get a Refugee of the Year award. You know, we need an Illegal Immigrant of the Year award. I think we need those as well. Wait, Minneapolis might already have it. Undocumented Migrant Award, I'm sure is what they're calling it. Up next, my friends, you might suffer from Israel derangement syndrome. We'll tell you how you can recognize the causes, the symptoms, everything when we get back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Do you find yourself irrationally hating Jewish people, claiming there's a genocide every 5 minutes? You might be suffering from Israel derangement syndrome. Here's a new commercial from TBT.
All right, everyone, boy or girl?
Israel is committing genocide right now, and you people are cutting a cake?
Do you or someone you love suffer from Israel derangement syndrome?
My wife says I never listen to her. At least I think that's what she said.
We're giving Israel almost $4 billion of our tax money every year. Why are you silent on this? Are you funded by them too?
Israel derangement syndrome doesn't care if you're far left or far right. It can affect you just the same.
Jewish people are colonizers. You have no ancestral right to that land.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is a Wendy's.
Symptoms include bringing Israel up unprompted, ruining family holidays, and a complete inability to acknowledge any other problem on Earth.
Yes, my client ended these innocent people's lives. We can all acknowledge that. But is murder really worth making a big fuss about if it wasn't done by Israel?
But finally, there is hope for a cure. At the Clarity Center, recovery happens one fact at a time.
I had no idea Qatar was pumping billions of dollars into the misinformation all over my TikTok feed. Wow, I don't know how I'll ever recover from this.
You have to take it one day at a time.
Now, when Maya sees a clickbait headline about the Middle East, she checks the sources and seeks out other perspectives.
I suffered from Israel derangement syndrome for years. I used to call them colonizers. Then I read one actual history book.
I had no idea that almost every dollar we send Israel is spent right here on American companies and American jobs. I always thought we were just giving it away.
Before, I was certain Israel was starving out the Palestinians. Turns out, Israel helped bring food aid in. There's less hunger in Gaza than in Egypt or Jordan, and Egypt walls off Gaza, just like Israel does.
If someone you love is showing the signs, don't wait. There is help. Call the Clarity Center today, because Israel is going to be okay. It's you we're worried about.
The Clarity Center is not for everyone. Side effects may include reading past the headline, a sudden interest in Middle East history, and a constant urge to touch grass. Do not begin treatment while actively protesting. Ask your doctor if being normal again is right for you.
AI is getting really scary. AI is getting really scary. TBC is this account on social media that just makes these AI videos all day long. Kevin, if you actually watch this thing when you were ripping the audio, did you see that look like one of the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, like the People's Court infomercial kind of things? The coloring, the shading, scary what they could do.
I actually didn't watch it because I'm just interested in the audio when I'm dubbing that stuff in for you, so I'll check it out.
But I'm saying it's like these people are actually talking and you go, this wasn't made with real people?
Wow.
It's scary. It is horrifying, but also very, very funny. Very, very funny, and did a great job hitting the nail on the head with this one. Well, speaking of people who are suffering from Israel derangement syndrome and Trump derangement syndrome and hating America and all that, Abdul Rahman El Sayed. It looks like somebody's been holding back all the dirt on this guy, just waiting to save it. I'm wondering what else is going to come out. So he's not doing himself any favors, by the way, out of Michigan. He's campaigning, and this was his response when he was asked about black voters who don't support him.
I mean, why don't you just make it just happen there? The guy saying you're an Arab, you don't care about black folks. You know, I hate to say this, but I continue to hear it from older black folks, people like some of Denzel's colleagues telling me that they're uncommitted for you.
You know, there's been an effort, I think, to divide people against each other. And unfortunately, you see that the consequence of that. To tell us that some group or another group have to be counterposed because there's not enough for all of us. I am Arab. I'm also African. My family immigrated to this country from Egypt. I'm proud of my African heritage.
What? Okay. Maybe we should go over geography a little bit there. Maybe we should do that. But sure, let's go with that one. So your defense of you're not good for the black community is I have black family members, or I'm black, I got a black friend. That's your defense. That's what you're going with. Hey, could be worse. He could compare himself to Jesus. Oh, wait. He actually did.
You know, Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, was considered radical in his time too. And there is a radical nature to being willing to stand forthright in a time of corruption.
He was asked on the podcast about his radical ideas, and he compared himself to Jesus. Wow. I don't even think Obama ever did that. Oh, no, wait. Hang on. Obama is coordinating with Abdul Rahman El Sayed. They were discussing midterm strategy in an encouraging phone call. Apparently, they started talking last week. Now they're best of friends. I see them skipping along, right? The idea behind the call was to find ways to unite Democrats in the state ahead of the general election come November. Ha! Fooled all of you. Obama's always been a far-left radical. He's finally going, all right, the party is finally where I want it to be. Very excited about that. Now I've got Abdul, happy to have you. It's great. Really happy to have you. He's just excited about this now. El Sayed claims to represent the working class, but that demographic went to his opponent. Well, he secured wealthy, college-educated voters. A spokesperson for El Sayed's campaign told Politico that Obama and Abdul Rahman had a warm, encouraging discussion and look forward to working together to unite Democrats to win Michigan in November. El Sayed said of the discussions with Obama, sometimes you really should meet your heroes. Oy. The two discussed working together to unite Democrats in his candidacy. The Senate candidate referenced Obama's political rise while he was on campaign trail, saying, I've got to be honest with you, this is the first time I ever saw myself reflected in politics at all. I warned all of you this was coming. Didn't I say this long before this? When this guy's star started to rise, I said, you ever hear of a senator who came out of nowhere, gets elected, and then after a year or two, they go, we should run this guy for president. Well, does he have any achievements legislatively? No. Let's run him for president because he looks a certain way or he believes in a certain thing. Abdul Rahman El Sayed has American citizenship, my friends. He was born here. So, once again, not African. Born in America, not African. I'll just go with that for a second. Obama won Michigan in both 2008 and 2012 and could be a big help for El Sayed. In March, leaked audio revealed that El Sayed did not want to talk about the death of Iranian regime leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei, who was killed by U.S. and Israeli forces. He claimed there's a lot of people in Dearborn who were sad over Khomeini's death. I wonder if one of them was his mom. Al Sayed's mom worked for a global terrorist group accused of funding Osama bin Laden, Hamas, and the Taliban. According to the New York Post, far-left Michigan Senate hopeful Abdul El Sayed's mother once worked for an organization that was designated a global terrorist group, accused of funneling money to Osama bin Laden, Taliban, Hamas. Her name is Fatan Fathi El-Komi, worked with the Islamic American Relief Agency from 1999 until at least 2004. The Department of Treasury linked the group to terrorism. They had dozens of offices around the globe, billed themselves as a humanitarian organization, but were actually funding terror. The organization provided direct financial support to the masterminds behind the 9/11 terror attacks, Osama bin Laden. And yet, this is where this guy's mom worked. Well, I don't like the people, but the perks are great, right? Oh, they had good pension, I'm sure. That's why you're working for the terrorist funding organization. Unreal. Up next, my friends, there are very, 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 very few Jews in Seattle. How are we the majority of the hate crimes? Hate crime statistics are out for our oh-so-tolerant Seattle, and they might shock even you. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Special thank you and shout out to our sponsor, Renewal by Andersen, Western Washington windows and doors for every home. You may not have heard this story over the weekend because it happened on a Friday night. A Bronx man attacked Jewish worshipers and a black security guard during Sabbath services at a Manhattan synagogue, and he has now been charged with federal hate crime charges after allegedly telling investigators blank the Jews and admitting his actions were racially and religiously motivated. Don't you know, just plead insanity there, man? Don't you know that's what, you don't say you're guilty, you just plead insanity. Then you can get released. It's New York, right? Department of Justice announced Tuesday that Larry Montez, 46, was charged with 2 federal hate crime counts, 1 count of damaging religious property resulting in bodily injury stemming from the August 14th incident at the Central Synagogue in Manhattan. According to the federal complaint, approximately 375 people were attending Friday night Sabbath services when Montez allegedly stood up, began shouting before striking and damaging parts of the synagogue. When the synagogue security attempted to remove him, he allegedly shouted, "Blank you people, I don't blank with you people." Very elegant. By the way, this is all on video, by the way. So this is a different sect of Judaism than me. They use technology on Sabbath, and they were actually live streaming the services. So you see in the middle of the video, all of a sudden everybody starts running, and then there's this dude there screaming and yelling. Authorities allege that as he was being handcuffed, he directed a racial slur at a black security guard before spitting in the guard's face and headbutting him near his left eye socket. He also allegedly threatened to return to the synagogue. During the recorded Mirandized interview following his arrest, so you've already been told you have the right to remain silent. And then he said, "Blank the Jews, the attack was racial. I'll never affiliate with no blanking synagogues, either here or in blanking Israel." He also described the attack as an all-racial thing, and it's all religiously motivated. Now, here's my favorite part of this. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani's campaign former staffer initially disputed that the attack was anti-Semitic. So this woman, Debbie Coleslaw, something? All right, Debbie Coleslaw, co-founder of the progressive video agency Melted Solids, falsely claimed on X after the attack. Apparently this guy was an Orthodox Jew who was lashing out at Jews. I wouldn't call that an anti-Semitic attack. I don't think a guy with the last name Montez was Jewish. Just a guess. Maybe if it's Montezesburg or something like that, then maybe. Montez Stein, maybe. Some Montez Man. Coleslaw's firm prominently features its work for Mamdani's campaign, has also worked for progressive politicians, including Senator Bernie Sanders, Jamal Bowman. The outlet said, "We have nothing to do with her." She's not working for us anymore. We want nothing to do with her. She later deleted the post, acknowledged she had been mistaken. She said she had become mixed up about his identity after hearing information from a family member. What else does that family member tell you? Is the family member in the room with you right now? Now, Mamdani, to his credit, condemned the attack, but these are a whole bunch of Mamdaniites who think they can get away with whatever they want because, Mamdani wants to defund the police and he doesn't like them Jews very much. Mind you think this is something that's only happening in New York. It's not. According to the Jewish News Syndicate, anti-Jewish hate crimes have surged in Seattle in 2026, with Jews accounting for nearly 1 in 5 of hate crimes. There's not that many of us here. There really aren't. There's really not. I could probably name all of them. According to the Seattle Police Department data analyzed by intrepid reporter Jessica Russack-Hoffman, 13 of the city's 66 hate crimes between January 1st and July 31st targeted Jews, or 19.7% of the total. That represents a sharp increase from the 9.1% share of Seattle hate crimes targeting Jews since 2023. The city recorded 511 total hate crime cases through July when hate crimes begin, when they start tracking it. Crimes containing what Seattle classifies as bias elements and non-criminal bias elements are combined. 37 or 7.2% targeted Jews. By comparison, Arabs and Muslims were targeted in 23 cases across the same categories, including 5 hate crimes. So what we're talking about is where's all this Islamophobia I hear about all the time? I don't see a lot of evidence of it. Pew Research Center estimates Muslims comprise roughly 2% of the Seattle metro area's population, compared with about 1% of Jews. And yet Jews make up 50% of the hate crimes? Adjusted for population, the 2026 figures indicate a Seattle area Jew was roughly 420% more likely to be targeted in a hate crime than an Arab or a Muslim. The trend extends beyond this year. Since 2023, the year of Hamas's October 7th terrorist attack on Israel, Seattle recorded 384 hate crimes through January of 2026, 35 targeted Jews compared with 9 targeting Arabs and Muslims. Accounting for their respective population shares, JNS calculated the Jews were about 7.78 times more likely to be targeted. Now, Randy Kessler, executive director with Stand With Us Northwest, said the numbers are absolutely alarming, but alarm doesn't help, which is why all the synagogues have giant, huge security guards standing in front of them, which is why there was a security guard at that synagogue in Manhattan to stop that guy. Exactly why. Now, these aren't things that went through the hate crimes hotline. These are things that went through Seattle Police Department data, not the hate crimes hotline. These are real things that actually happened that were reported to the police. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson gave a statement to JNS. They found her. There's proof of life of Katie Wilson. She exists. She's out there. She said, Seattle is no place for anti-Semitism or hatred of any kind. Is that why you're having that speaking event with those two far-left anti-Semitic Looney Tunes at Town Hall in a couple weeks? Is that why? Has no place here. Quickly, come to my event where I'm hanging out with these people. Quickly. Okay, Katie Wilson. Mayor Katie. Yep, she's definitely looking out for us. If she's looking out for us, we're totally screwed. Up next, final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories. Plus, how Katie Wilson, her polling ain't good, my friends. It's a disaster. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. You want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, you got to call our backup line today. That's 206-644-6006. That's 206-644-6006, or text us at 206-421-5757. Don't worry, my friends. I do have some good news for you to kick off this hour. So I got to tell you how my night was last night, because I was getting this news as I was out and about. So last night was the press screening that we were giving out tickets for, the advanced screening of Mutiny, right? The new Jason Statham movie. So we have the press screening for this thing. And what happens is I'm waiting to get in because I got there a little late and I didn't want to cut the whole line of people. I know I got press seats, but I always feel bad doing that. Like, who's that guy who gets to go to the front? Plus, I'm wearing the Jewish thing on my head. You know, I don't want to do that. So I just waited in line with everybody else. And I walk in, and while I'm in line, I'm checking my phone. And what do I see? The recall effort against Seattle Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson is heading to court. So now I got a problem. I was texting with Matt Gilbert. I'm like, hey, I got to meet up with this guy, but I want to get a snack, and I want to get a seat, and I want to get everything. I'm like, but I got breaking news right now. So I go into a corner of the AMC Pacific Place Theater, start hammering out a text as fast as I possibly can to post this up on social media. So the recall effort against Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson is heading to court. Don't get excited yet. Don't get excited yet. Let me tell you why. A judge has to sign off on it, and most times the judge goes, you don't have it. You don't have it. So don't get excited yet. If it gets past this next level, I'll be impressed. So it is accusing her of being derelict in her duties for public safety following a series of controversies involving violent crime policing, surveillance cameras, and the fallout of the deadly Bite of Seattle shooting. King County Superior Court Judge Patrick Oshie has been assigned the case and will hold a hearing at 9 a.m. on August 31st to determine whether the allegations meet Washington's legal requirement for a recall and whether the proposed ballot synopsis is adequate. Okay. I'm going to be in Vegas on August 31st, so I will be making sure to be on social media at 9 a.m. to see what the outcome of this is, because I want to know. I want to make sure I actually have the details. We know that Seattle voters Melinda Jacobson and Dale Ostrud filed the recall charge on August 11th, alleging that Wilson is derelict in her duties for public safety of the city of Seattle. Now, I'm not sure this qualifies. I'm going to go back to what I said before. If this moves forward, the fix is in. Just like Katie Wilson getting rid of the police chief, okay? He's an idiot, but you needed a fall guy. So in this one, this is not a convincing case. If it goes forward, they really want her gone. Now, some people have been asking me on the text line, if she's not the mayor anymore, who takes her place? Might I suggest somebody? I got an idea. I could put on a suit. I could put on a tie. Hoffman for mayor. What do you say, mayor of Seattle? I'll take a little leave of absence from the... No, wait, hang on. We'll still do the show. I just won't discuss Seattle issues as a Seattle radio host. That's fine, Mr. KVI, right? I don't think anybody will listen, but... Wait. The mayor does a radio show? I think that'll be great. So 3 hours a day, you can't reach me. And on Friday nights, you can't reach me. And on Saturdays, you can't reach me. Well, Katie Wilson, you can't find all the time. So you're already a step up from there. Bruce Harrell was never here. How do I know Bruce Harrell was never here? I know where he sleeps. No, his house is right in your mind. And when the cops are there, when the cop car's outside his house, you know somebody's actually home. When the cop car's not outside his house, the mayor's not there. I guess he's hanging out at his apartment in Bellevue we're not supposed to know about. Anyway, so I will be more on than the mayor, than Bruce Harrell was or Katie Wilson. I'm sure I can't screw up that much, right? How hard can it be? Enforce the law. Get rid of the homeless people. Make sure nobody's defrauding the government. Yeah, Hoffman for mayor. Now there's an idea. I could run for mayor. No, you know who actually gets to be mayor? City Council normally picks a member of the Seattle City Council. Odds are they would pick Joy Hollingsworth. In the past, when Bruce Harrell or Tim Burgess or somebody else had to replace the mayor, like Ed Murray, when you had to replace a mayor, they put the president of the Seattle City Council in the slot. So odds are it would be Joy Hollingsworth, who I actually think would do a halfway decent job. I like Joy Hollingsworth. Very nice lady. Stuck at multiple fundraisers at the same table together. She's lovely. I really have nothing bad to say about her. We disagree on a lot of politics, but anytime there's a real issue in Seattle, she's there. Remember when she saved those dogs from she saved that dog from the people who were abusing it in a homeless shelter? She ran down and saved the dog. So anyway, we like Joy Hollingsworth. The question is this thing actually going to stick? Well, I think the stars are aligning to get rid of Katie. I don't think she's going to serve a full term. I think she's going to be out long before then. Why? Katie Wilson has managed to achieve the impossible. Has Seattle ever been united in anything aside from maybe the World Cup? Have they ever been united in anything? No, and they weren't even united for the World Cup. Well, now, the majority of Seattle, over 60%, say she should resign or be removed. 60%, 2/3 of Seattle voters say, like, bye. That's what they want to say to Katie Wilson. Like, bye. That's what they want to say. A new poll of Seattle registered voters says regarding the mayor, like, bye. They say this poll conducted by Change Washington, August 13th through 17th, found just 22% of Seattle voters approve of Wilson's job performance, with 66% who disapprove. Another 12% are unsure. Who are the 12% who are unsure? They're the drug addicts. Mayor Wilson, how that is. That's who the 12% are. Among Seattle Democrats, 60% disapprove of Wilson's performance and only 28% approve. Among independent voters, 79% disapprove and just 8% approve. These concerns become even clearer when voters are asked whether Wilson should remain in office. Overall, 60% of Seattle voters say Wilson should resign or be removed from office, compared with 30% who say she should not and 10% who are unsure. Okay, who are the 30%? Okay, I know who the 30% are. 30% are made up of her supporters and people on our side of the aisle who are going, let Seattle burn. Let it burn. Let her stay. You guys get what you voted for, good and hard. That's probably who that is. That's why it's higher than the 20% from before. The most significant finding is not simply that Wilson is unpopular, it's that dissatisfaction has spread deeply among Democratic and independent voters. Wow. When only 22% of people support you, you know what the rest of the city is saying to you? Like, bye. That's... Oh, that soundbite. Kevin, you know what's going to happen the day that she's out of office, right? We're just going to play that on repeat. It's just going to be nonstop of it. Bye. Nonstop of it, right? Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think she gets through till then. I don't think she's going to finish her term in office. She can't even answer basic questions. She's getting a little bit better at the press conferences. Como News senior reporter Chris Daniels was actually at one of her pressers the other day where she had a ceremonial signing, which means it wasn't a real signing, of something that isn't going to fix housing affordability here. Here's what Chris Daniels asked her.
And with respect to the housing community, it's the first time that we've seen you in a couple of weeks to have a chance to ask you questions about other things. There's been a recall filed against you that you know has moved forward. This is your chance to respond to that recall. How do you respond to the allegations in that recall effort?
So that is a legal process that will be playing out. I'm focused on leading the city and on making it an affordable place for people to live, and that's the work that we're here to discuss today.
And Mayor, again, with all due respect to people in the room, we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. We have to ask these questions. Again, there's an active investigation into the Bite of Seattle murders. There's still not been a person arrested for that. There's been public polling to suggest that in the wake of that, people would like to have a closed-circuit television camera system expanded that I know that you've opposed in the past. 75% of the public says they want these things. The cameras that were on outside the Cowgirls, Inc., that were on during the World Cup were turned off, and there was an unsolved shooting there as well. Does all of this now change your perspective on that issue, given those shootings and given the public polling suggesting that people want to have those cameras on?
So we're continuing to follow the course that I laid out earlier this year, which is that as we speak, there is an audit being conducted of privacy, data security, storage sharing practices for our CCTV system. We expect the results of that audit to be coming out, I believe, around the end of September. So that will be a decision point where we can share those results publicly and make a decision about whether to move forward with the expansion of the CCTV cameras.
Now, speaking of these cameras, by the way, something interesting happened yesterday. Yesterday, you remember our top story of the day was that over 70% of Seattle wants the cameras turned back on and actually wants to expand the camera program. The people who don't want to are people with privacy concerns, but also people who go, let Seattle burn, or the people who have ICE concerns. That's about it. Now, mind you, there is a discussion we can have on privacy concerns. We have actually had that discussion on the show before. And if Katie Wilson wants to have that discussion, that's a discussion that could be had. But she shut them off. Let's remember why she shut them off. Because of Ice Ice Baby. That's why she shut them off. She didn't care about privacy or anything else. Privacy was an excuse that came later. She said, ICE is using our cameras. Madam Mayor, that's not how it works. They can't be hacked. You have to get a warrant to use our cameras. Oh, all right. We're going to catch all the hookers and the prostitutes, and people are going to know what's going on there because sex work is real work. Madam Mayor, there's no cameras on Aurora Avenue. Oh, well, privacy concerns then. That's how this really happened. So yesterday, this big survey comes out, and it was actually commissioned by Christine Gregoire, and we talked about it yesterday on the show, how over 70% of Seattle want the cameras turned on, except there was another story that didn't get as much traction. A whole bunch of these far left lunatic activists miraculously showed up yesterday at Seattle City Hall to protest against the cameras. As far as I could tell, the only outlets that really covered them was the Seattle Times and the crazy ones like The Stranger and stuff, but anybody who syndicates the Seattle Times. Now, what's interesting to me about this, the activists show up the same day as a poll is released showing that over 70% of Seattle want the cameras. They're trying to say they are bigger than they are. Somebody clearly tipped them off. Somebody clearly who is affiliated with the organizations that did the surveys said to their activist buddies, guys, the survey's coming out. You got to make people think there's more of you. Get in their face. Show up at City Hall. This is the activist shtick. When they want something, they try to be loud and obnoxious and make you think there's more of them. I bet you the majority of people who show up for this thing don't even live in Seattle. I bet you the majority of them who show up are just random activists that show up to everything. I haven't seen any pictures from the event, but I'm sure if I actually looked at it, I'll be like, Antifa, BLM, Trans Tifa. I'm sure we'll see all of it. It'll all be people that we know in that picture. Guaranteed. So now this group shows up saying, what's this group called? Community, not cameras. Oh, so you want to defund the police. You don't want the police. You don't want the cameras. You want the community to do it. Do you mean neighborhood watch programs? No, they don't mean that. What are they? Well, we'll just, we'll turn them off and we won't have police and everything will be perfectly fine. You mean like at Bite of Seattle, where you had zero security at any of the entrances, no bag checks, no metal detectors, no cameras, and now we still don't have any suspects. Hey, by the way, it's been like 3-4 weeks now. What are we coming up on, a month since the Bite of Seattle shooting in just a few days? After the weekend, it will have been a month since the Bite of Seattle shooting. We still don't even have suspects, except for the one in custody. How dumb do you think that guy feels? If he had just run a little faster, maybe if his pants weren't halfway down around his legs, couldn't have gotten away faster like the other two did. Oh, yeah, don't forget there's multiple suspects. And still nobody will tell us what they actually look like. So these activists show up because they're trying to make it seem like there is broad support against the cameras. That just ain't true. What we have seen from the Bite of Seattle shooting is a full tragedy on display, but also an incompetent response to that tragedy. A response from the mayor's office that totally blew it. You notice all these police chiefs are coming out of hiding. People we haven't heard from in forever, like Sue Rohr, coming out Sue Rohr, I almost forgot she existed. She comes out and she's like, yeah, this was the wrong way to do it. Every police chief, everybody affiliated with police comes out and says this isn't the way it's done. You should have had the press conference. You should have informed the public. You should have told everybody what was going on. The Seattle City Council is talking about launching investigations. They've already launched hearings into the whole thing. Bob Ferguson is trying to distance himself from the mayor as much as possible. Pramila Jayapal is like, quick, run to the ICE facility. I'm going to go protest the ICE facility. So everybody forgets I was on these calls. Everybody's claiming not it when it comes to culpability for this. So who's left holding the bag? Katie Wilson. Now, I think she has a share in this mess. I don't think she's entirely responsible for this mess. I think Barnes, living in Chicago, being out of town when it happened, had a share of it too. I think Bob Ferguson saying, I'm coming, probably saying, my guess is probably saying, hold the press conference for me, I'm on my way, had a share in it too. Pramila Jayapal probably also said something similar. I think they all have a share in it. But you saw Katie Wilson's incompetence on full display during all of this. So she's turning to her activist base. See, these activists don't want me to have the cameras on. Look at them. They showed up at City Hall. They're probably the 20% that still support her. When over 60% says they don't want you, that's a lot of build back better you got to do. That's a whole lot of build back better. You're not going to be able to do that because what's the next opportunity you have to seem competent? What, you're rooting for another tragedy so you can seem competent? There's been 3 shootings since then. Haven't seen you down in any of those. Haven't seen you down in any of those. Could have done it. You've been in hiding. Except for that one time you came out to rap or dance with the rapper. Dance like Elaine. Out with the rapper. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. What is it going to take for Seattle to open their eyes? Great. 60% of Seattle doesn't want her. Who are you going to vote for next time? A bigger communist? A worse one? What'll probably happen in the next election is there will be some far left Democrat and a full-on communist, and those will be our options. You think a conservative is crazy enough to run? We saw what happened with Spencer Pratt. Go to the KVI studio line. Take a call from Stilgar in Ballard. Stilgar, what's going on, man?
It's a beautiful area that we live in, but I feel like I need to get out.
I wish I could disagree with you. I wish I could talk you out of it, but unfortunately I hear that all the time.
Well, no, and this whole Katie Wilson thing and all of that just is, and now fortunately we'll see what happens with Dr. Moran's and his conviction or plea deal. But I'm justice delayed is justice denied, and I am sick and tired of all the people that we are paying for who either can't do their job or they commit felonies and don't get held accountable for it at all. They go out and take hammers to government BlackBerries, or they, spit a private server that has,
Stilgar, I think you're looking at this. I think you're looking at this the wrong way. Okay, we're probably saving money because of the amount of people that are quitting Katie Wilson's staff right now. I think you're very glass half empty today, my friend. I think you should be more glass half full. Look at all the staff members she's losing.
Well, if only they cut the funding for them.
Yeah.
If only their paycheck, if the money we're paying them went with, and they weren't paying once again for people for 2 years' pay for somebody that was quote fired. Only they were allowed to quit. It was like, okay, you know what? Just fire them all.
Exactly. That's where we're at this point.
I don't want to agree with Antifa, but maybe at some level anarchy might be better.
Oh, no, we tried that, Stilgar. We tried that during the autonomous zone. Didn't work out that well. But I hear your frustration. I hear what you're saying because you just think to yourself, who's Seattle going to get next? Watch, Bruce Harrell will come back in. I'm available. Somebody pick me. And we'll all go, how about no?
I would vote for you twice, and I don't even live in Seattle.
Okay.
But I'm sure I could.
Wait. I got an idea, Stilgar. There's no voter ID here. So you know what I think we should do? Everybody who listens to the Ari Hoffman show should just register to vote in Seattle. That's what. There's no voter ID. It's no problem.
I don't even think you have to register to vote. Just get yourself a bunch of copies of the ballot. And go down and stuff the boxes.
There you go. Write them on napkins.
Ari Hoffman ballots.
There you go. Write them on napkins. That's when they'll say we need voter ID. Stilgar, appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you got to call us on the backup line today, 206-644-6006, or you can text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, the Seattle Times had a PDC complaint filed against them. Looks very similar to the one filed against Brandy Cruz and Let's Go Washington. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you missed any part of the show, catch the Ari Hoffman Show Reloaded from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Brought to you by our friends over at Wade's Eastside Guns and Bellevue Indoor Range, Puget Sound's premier destination for everything firearms. So, last night, had a little spare time on my hands, and I decided to file my first ever PDC complaint. Actually, I think it's my second PDC complaint. So this is the second time I filed one, and what was I mad about? I am mad that the Seattle Times company and related organizations, I believe, are in violation or should be investigated for potential violations of the law, because I believe that what they did is they did undisclosed campaign contributions to the effort to stop repealing the gas tax. So I filed a formal complaint against them. Let's remember, on August 18th, we filed this thing, and the complaint focuses on the Seattle Times Climate Lab. You know what the Climate Lab is? Somebody pays for that section of the paper, and magically it formed the same year they were facing a repeal of the Climate Commitment Act. You know that thing that spiked your gas prices by 58 cents? That sucker? Mm-hmm. Well, magically, they had all these donors that were supporting the stoppage of the repeal, but also supporting the Climate Lab. And I don't see the Seattle Times as listed as all this, but they're writing all these op-eds how we need the Climate Commitment Act, which we actually don't. Seattle Foundation served as Climate Lab's fiscal sponsor. During the same election, Seattle Foundation expressly campaigned against the I-2117, publishing the Protect the Climate Commitment Act, Vote No on I-2117, identified as paid for by Seattle Foundation. The complaint also asked the PDC to investigate the relationship between Climate Lab and Clean and Prosperous Risk and Repeat Project. Clean and Prosperous conducted outreach intended to help the media use its materials, while Clean and Prosperous Institute reported approximately $176,832 in CCA mapping education expenditures. On October 18, 2024, just 18 days before the election when ballots were dropping, Climate Lab published Washington's carbon market pumps billions of dollars into state projects. What happens if it vanishes? Well, then a whole bunch of Democrats won't be on the grift, because what did we find out later? 90% of the money from the Climate Commitment Act is being used by these nonprofits that just sprung up overnight that aren't doing anything to actually address climate change. We have ones that are teaching kids to ride bikes. That's the job of parents, by the way. Seattle Times editorial board separately engaged in express advocacy, publishing Keep Washington's Climate Commitment Act, Vote No on I-2117. Washington's campaign finance laws must be applied consistently. The Seattle Times has every right to editorialize against an initiative. The question is whether outside organizations involving defeating I-2117 provided money, research, data, services, or other things of value used to produce or distribute election-related communications without required disclosure. Climate Lab was funded with outside money. Its fiscal sponsor was publicly campaigning against I-2117. And Clean and Prosperous says it provided risk of repeal resources to the media, and later identified Seattle Times reporting as amplification of that effort. Using the Seattle Times' own advertising rates, the lowest value we can presently calculate is more than $44,000. That is the floor, not the ceiling. Once additional homepage promotion, newsletters, social media, digital impressions, push notifications, and outside research of media services are included, the value could conceivably exceed $100,000. If the PDC is going to investigate independent media figures and content creators for alleged undisclosed in-kind political advertising, then it should investigate legacy media under the same standard. Washington cannot have one set of campaign finance rules for independent media and another for the Seattle Times. Does any of that sound familiar to you, by the way? That's a lot of gobbledygook political speak. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Well, I took the PDC complaint that was filed against Brandy Cruz and the one that was filed against Let's Go Washington, and I looked at it and I said, Seattle Times did the exact same thing. So why is the Seattle Times protected against this? Oh, because the law protects free speech, and money is speech. But you know what the problem is? The PDC is investigating Brandy Cruz, claiming she's not a journalist, claiming it's undisclosed political campaign contributions. This has already been settled by law. Almost 20 years ago, there was a case in Washington where two guys, you might have heard of them, John Carlson and Kirby Wilbur, wanted to stop a gas tax. So what happened? They were talking on air about stopping a gas tax. And somebody hit them with a bogus PDC complaint, just like the one against Brandy Cruz and Let's Go Washington. And the case went to the Washington State Supreme Court, and John Carlson, Kirby Wilbur, KVI, got a unanimous decision in their favor from the Washington State Supreme Court. Unanimous decision in their favor. In fact, it was so unanimous, even the ACLU wrote a letter supporting them. A letter supporting them. You think that would happen these days? Probably not. Bob Ferguson would take any opportunity he could to ding KVI. We know that. He doesn't like us very much, except he did share my social media post the other day. This PDC complaint If they are going to investigate the Let's Go Washington one, this one has the exact same merits, and I believe mine is more detailed. I believe mine has more details in it because rather than these other ones that were filed throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks, mine actually focused on the things you can actually trace versus what they just alleged. So, if they don't accept mine, they are showcasing their own hypocrisy. They are showcasing it. And we will show that off to everybody, show that off to our audience, how ridiculous this whole thing is. You guys want to go down this road? We're going to go down this road. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from Transit Joe. Transit Joe, didn't you file one of these things?
I file lots of PDC complaints because I know what I'm doing. I win. PDC enforcement case search me, man. Just search for KUNZLER on the site. You'll find that the PDC loves me because I tell them where to throw the flag. You know, I just got Amy Wallen. I want to break some news on your show. I just got
No, Joe. I want to go back to this for a second. I want to go back to this.
Okay.
Didn't you file one of these complaints against Let's Go Washington and Brandy Cruz?
I have filed several against Let's Go Washington for lacking sponsor ID and lacking full disclosure of their work. Different than yours.
Joe, do you not understand all the people that are spending money on this bogus complaint because you filed it?
It's not bogus because the PDC didn't say it's bogus.
Joe, there's a letter where the PDC actually said it was bogus. We actually have a copy of the letter where they said it was bogus. This whole it's gone to investigation, they ruled it was bogus already. If they are now backtracking, it's because somebody put political pressure on them. It's bogus.
All right, publish the letter. I dare you to do it.
You dare me to do it. It is not my letter to publish. You should ask your friends at the PDC about it. You have such good friends at the PDC. Ask them about it. In fact, you know what I think you should do? I think you should ask your friend Shauna Sowersby about, I don't know, journalists getting press passes and the effort she went to deny them press passes. I think you should ask her about that too over at the Seattle Times.
Oh, I will. In fact, I fully support keeping lobbyists like Brandy Cruz away from.
Wait, Joe. Do you think I shouldn't get a press pass?
I'm not so sure.
Whoa. Do you think I shouldn't get a press pass, Joe?
I would give it to you, but not Brandy Cruz.
Okay, so hang on a second. Your friend Shauna Sowersby worked on behalf of the Seattle Times to deny me a press pass.
I will have a conversation with her about how great she is.
Okay. Joe, I'm going to tell you something. Joe, you're on the wrong side of a lot of things here. And I know you think you're helping, but you're not. You have said repeatedly that you don't like a lot of the things that are happening, and yet you are filing PDC complaints. Filing PDC complaints that are costing a lot of people a lot of money because the left is using you as their tool to do this.
Well, the left better watch out because I just lit up Amy Wallen like a telephone pole.
Nobody knows who Amy Wallen is, Joe. Nobody knows who that is. Nobody knows who Amy Wallen is, Joe. Yeah, sorry, Joe. Nobody knows who that is. Joe, what you're doing is you're filing these complaints, and then the Democrats are saying, that's not a bad idea. We should do the exact same thing, and that's what they did against things you actually believe in from time to time, Joe. I appreciate you being part of the show. I appreciate you willing to engage in the conversation. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at texting at 206-421-5757. Calling us on the backup line of 206-644-6006. That's 206-644-6006. Up next, my friends, good news out of Florida in the primaries. Question is, are we holding off the socialists or are they advancing across the U.S.? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just want to remind everybody, in case you missed any part of the show, you can always subscribe to the podcast. So whatever your preferred podcast platform is, you can also catch the Ari Hoffman Show Reloaded, brought to you by our friends over at Wade's Eastside Guns and Bellevue Indoor Range. Remember that the indoor range at Wade's is air-conditioned and open 7 days a week. So last night, a lot of people were talking about the primary results in Florida. And what they were very excited about was a whole bunch of the socialists lost, a whole bunch of the far right-wing griper types lost, and they're very, very excited about that. One little teensy tiny problem. It's Florida, a very, very, very red state, and a lot of moderate Democrats who go, I can stay here and vote my conscience, but I don't want the crazy, so I'm staying here in Florida. That's who lives there. So the socialists weren't going to have a lot of success in Florida. In fact, how bad is it actually? CNN's Harry Enton. And the reason CNN is running all this stuff is because they are worried about the socialists taking over. Because they go, we're left, but that's a little too far for us. Here's their pollster, Harry Enton.
So where are these wins happening? Is there a specific area, or what are you seeing with the numbers?
Yeah, okay, you might just say, oh, this is just a phenomenon in the Northeast. This is part of the Acela corridor. This is just an urban phenomenon. No, not really. I mean, take a look here. Where DSA candidates won primaries for Congress, they're all Democrats. Yeah, you got 3 in New York, but you got 2 in Michigan. You got 1 in Colorado. You got 1 in Florida last night running for the Senate. And you got 1 in Pennsylvania. So this is not just a Northeast phenomenon in terms of these DSA candidates who are winning primaries. Yes, they are primarily in urban areas, but they are happening across the map, from the Northeast to the Midwest to the Mountain West, and then last night down in the South in Florida. So this is happening across the political map. We are seeing these DSA candidates winning in Democratic primaries. As I said, they are becoming a larger part of the Democratic primary.
Now, that's something everybody should be concerned about. And the reason you should be concerned about is a lot of people, I see a lot of Republicans going, yes, it's going to be easier to beat them. You know, you have a 50-50 chance. And last night, there were some massive, massive upsets. Don't just assume that somebody's going to lose because they're a socialist. That's how you get somebody like Shama Sawant. Here's MSNBC reacting to one of the shocks of the night when an establishment Democrat who had millions of dollars behind him was beat by a far-left crazy.
In the Democratic primary for the United States Senate in Florida, this one is a monster of an upset. Vindman raised a ton of money, came into this with a ton of national name recognition, national support in this race, and the hope of Democrats that he could make this, we're going to do news now here in a second, that he could make this a fight, put Florida on the map nationally. Instead, Angie Nixon from the left has defeated him handily in this primary.
So who is Angie Nixon? Let's hear a little bit of what she has to say about herself.
And what that looks like is passing common sense legislation like Medicare for all. Healthcare is a right. We should not be allowing people to deny life-saving medical procedures or medicine because it's hurting someone's bottom line, right? We need to make sure that we're passing things like universal child care so that we can ensure that parents have the opportunity to get to work and children have a strong foundation. And also definitely ending for-profit prisons. Why are we incentivizing people to not actually educate our children the way that they should be educated and ushering them into the school-to-prison pipeline so that they can make more money off of them when they are incarcerated?
All right, just the usual abolish the police, Medicare for all the stuff they can't pay for. Oh, maybe we should just tax the rich. Oh, wait a minute. If you take away all the wealth of the wealthy, if you take away all the money from the millionaires and billionaires, you'll have about enough money to run the country for 9 months. And you'll have no countries left. Well done. So while everybody's looking at like, look, we beat off these guys, we beat off those guys. No, my friends. This DSA lunacy, this jihadi lunacy is spreading across the U.S. And I am not this comfortable that enough people are around voting them into the primaries, because what will happen is they'll just keep growing and growing and growing. Unless they all lose this time. They'll still go on the next one. So you're saying there's a chance. And that's what I'm concerned about. And I am not comfortable with them being that close to power in our country. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And while the show was going on today, the Seattle Stranger asked me for a comment on my public disclosure filing. And I said to them, I don't give comments to anti-American, anti-Semitic rags. That was my direct quote that I told them. So anyway, just FYI, not against free speech. They can say whatever they want, but that was my official comment, so I really hope they print it. I'm surprised from time to time when they print those kind of things that I give them. It's out there. So anywho, that's kind of fun. All right. I got the information here. Kevin helped me find it. Got it for good news. We want to give some recognition to Tacoma Soundview Little League, who won the Northwest Regional and is heading to the 2026 Little League World Series. Now, on August 13th, Soundview defeated West Valley Little League 8-5 in San Bernardino, California to clinch the title. Francis McCabe pitched a strong game, scattering 2 hits and 1 earned run over 4 2/3 inning with 10 strikeouts, 4 walks, and 2 walks. How does that work? All right, I'll have to look at that up. That may be a typo. Kason Workman recorded the final 4 outs on ESPN's national broadcast. Offensively, Soundview opened with a 4-run first inning, highlighted by a 2-run single from Paxton Henson, and went 3 for 3 with a performance from Ronan Loomis. Quinn Hersholt and Workman each added 2 hits. Soundview's run included a 5-3 win over Oregon in the opening round, a 2-1 win over Bend, North Oregon in the semifinals, and a 3-2 win over Idaho in the quarterfinals. They defeated Idaho again in the championship game to secure the berth. This is the 6th straight Washington team to win the Northwest Regional Tournament. For many on the team, including 12-year-old Smith Hootson, it is a long-sought dream realized after 4 years of preparation. Hootson is a former Federal Way National Little League player, said the moment is unreal to my Northwest and a culmination of hard work and unity. The 2026 Little League World Series runs August 19th through 30th in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, with Soundview representing the Northwest region. The tournament features 20 teams, 10 U.S., 10 international, with 1 from each region advancing to the championship. Soundview will now compete against other regional champions in the national bracket, aiming for a World Series title. So go Soundview. We're pulling for you guys. Very, very excited about that. That's really good news. See, people say, Ari, you want the bad news. You want the bad news because what would you talk about? I would talk about Little League Baseball. Thank you. We would do all good news all the time and sports. That's what we would do around here. Zach's gotten some experience at the sports. We'll bring Zach back and have him do some sports. We'll do a sports show, right? That would be nice. And talk about the baby animals in the zoo. That is what we would do if there weren't politics. Unfortunately, Seattle just can't get out of its own way, right? Right? Wait a second. If we recall Katie Wilson, is that news or is that good news? Where do we go? It depends who replaces her, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be good news.
Yes.
Then what would follow, who knows?
Right. Okay, so we do them separately. I got you. Okay, yeah, sports show. Right, Kevin? We'll talk about boxing. We'll talk about MMA, all the stuff you like, too. I like how Kevin's like, yeah, that's never going to happen.
Terrible idea.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, Hoffman, you like one sport. It's baseball. You don't know jack squat about anything else. You're going to talk about football for an entire season? Good luck with that. You might actually have to learn some of the Seahawks names, Hoffman, right? That's what Kevin's probably thinking. In other good news around here, this from the Good News Network, a construction worker found a giant amount of gold bricks. Police in Belgium discovered a most remarkable discovery while digging under the foundations of an old brewery while using a jackhammer on the property. About 19 miles outside of Brussels, construction workers noticed coins beginning to appear in the hole they were making. Kobe Phillips, a student working part-time, said he thought they were €1 coins, asked his colleague to help dig them out. They saw weren't, and then a gold bar was struck by the end of the jackhammer. There's pictures of this, which is really, really cool. 40 gold bars and over 4,000 gold sovereign coins were eventually recovered, estimated to be worth about $10 million. Quote, I thought there were €1 coins neatly lined up in a row. We dug them out. We saw a small bar of gold lying there already attached to our digging hammer. There was actually a bit more than we thought, they told CNN. After the scope of the discovery had been made clear, the workers called the property owner who called the police. The East Flanders Public Prosecutor's Office told CNN authorities had recovered the gold and taken it to a secure and secret place where it would be held pending an investigation into provenance and ownership. Are their rules that much different? If it's on your property, isn't it yours? Also, if it's that old, don't you think anybody's long gone by then? Yeah. Okay, we have a public listing for a whole bunch of gold bars and gold coins that were $10 million. Whose is this? It's mine. It's mine. I can just see everybody going, I claim it. I claim it. It's mine. Most of the bars date to the 1960s. Then, okay, I didn't expect that one there. The 1960s? What are we talking about here? What is this, like the Italian Job, the original? Is that what we're looking at here? The coins feature a variety of dates and bear a variety of origins. Gold has been much in the news over the last 12 months as its value has nearly doubled since the summer of 2025. In January, it reached an all-time record high of $5,600 per troy ounce before a sell-off brought down to $4,000. At publishing time, Asian markets trade the metal around $4,460 per ounce. A fair amount, more than half of all the gold on Earth's surface, has already been mined, according to scientific and industry estimations. Recovering large troves like this, apart from incredible fortune it bestows upon the rightful owners, helps to ensure as much of the supply as possible remains available to the markets for jewelry, electronics, dentistry, aerospace, and personal wealth protection. Oh, things you learn every day. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. Reloaded is up next, but we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.